Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Thiago and welcome to another episode of What Makes This English Great series. This is episode 3 and today we are breaking down Harrison Ford's English. This is an interview that he gave on David Letterman in 1982 and at the time he was promoting his latest movie, Blade Runner, all right? If you haven't seen the previous episode, we covered Axl Rose in an interview that he gave in 1990, so I'm going to leave the link in the description for that one. But for now, let's see what Harrison Ford himself, the man, has to say. So here we go.
Very much for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
Let me ask you a question.
Take a look at his face. Thank you for asking me. You know, this interview is famous for being awkward, and you will know what I mean pretty soon. And apparently Harrison Ford has this fame of not being much of a talker in interviews, you know. He has this archetype of the uninterested actor. It's almost like, okay, I'm here talking to you, but I'd rather be someplace else. You know, we get that vibe from him. So let's see how this interview unfolds.
Question about what it's like to be a contract player for a movie studio.
So Letterman is asking him about his experience being a contract player in a movie studio because, you know, a contract player is an actor who signs a contract with the studio, let's say for 7 years, for 10 years, whatever that might be. And basically the studio owns you. You know, the studio determines your salary. You gotta appear in whatever movie, commercial, or media project that the studio gives you. So it doesn't seem to be something that allows the actor to have much creative control or voice. You're basically an employee of the studio and you do whatever the studio tells you to do for a fixed salary, okay? As I understand, this practice is becoming less and less common. It used to be more common in the past, but let's see Harrison sharing his experience with that.
You did that, huh?
Yeah, it's an adventure from another world. There was,
We can sense his sarcasm here, right? Oh, yeah. Being a contract player is an adventure from another world.
it was 1965, and they were doing stuff that they'd figured out in 1940. You know, it was totally inappropriate to the time, to the people, I think.
He's using a nice word here, inappropriate. So apparently what the studios were doing back then in the 60s was totally inappropriate to the time, to the people. I don't know, maybe the studio didn't treat the talent so well. Maybe there was a little bit of exploitation as well.
40, you know, it was totally inappropriate to the time, to the people, I think. And they were trying to build stars. I don't think you can do that.
So you
And they were trying to build stars. Did you hear the pronunciation of the preposition to here? He doesn't clearly pronounce it. He doesn't say they were trying to build stars. He reduces it to a na-na kind of sound. They were trying to build stars. They were trying to build stars. Just like that. This is a schwa sound, by the way, yeah, the vowel.
you go out to Hollywood and somehow they hire you on.
I went to be an actor, and I did a couple of plays before that, but I basically had no preparation whatsoever. I didn't even know it
Oh, I like this word, whatsoever. Listen to that segment again.
before that, but I basically had no preparation whatsoever.
But I basically had no preparation whatsoever. This word whatsoever is a great word for you to use at the end of a sentence, a negative sentence, if you want to emphasize the negative part of the sentence. Because what he's saying here is basically, I had no preparation as an actor. I had no preparation. But the fact that he's using whatsoever at the end is just emphasizing how ill-prepared he was. So I had no preparation whatsoever. So for example, you can say, I don't have much time to do this, which is fine. You see, it's a negative sentence. But if you want to be emphatic, you can say, I don't have time whatsoever for this. All right? So really cool.
Basically had no preparation whatsoever. I didn't even know what the names of the major motion picture studios were. And about
motion picture studios. It's funny because, we have the term motion picture, right? Let's say that the term motion picture is like the real term, and movie is just the popular term that people use, yeah? But a motion picture is basically a movie, yeah? Think about it, right? A video is a lot of little pictures or images in motion that move at incredible speed. That's why movies are also called motion pictures, right? Makes perfect sense.
A year and a half later, I was under contract.
And now you own a couple, I would guess.
What? No.
And now you own a couple of studios like that, right? Because, at this time here, this was 1982. Now, in this interview, Harrison Ford was already an established big star. Yeah, so he had done Star Wars already. I think the first one in 1977, and then the second one in 1980. In 1981, 1 year prior, he had starred in Indiana Jones, the first Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So here he was a big star. And Letterman is kind of saying that, but now you have a lot of money, right, to even buy those studios if you want to, right? So he's kind of, trying to steer the conversation toward that, angle, yeah?
Under contract.
And now you own a couple, I would guess.
What? No.
Is
See, Harrison's like, no.
there good money in being a contract player? And what do you got to do to?
Oh, yeah, not just money, but the respect. That's
I like his sense of humor. It's what we would call this dry sense of humor. There is sarcasm in it. It's dry, very short words, very sharp, Of course, nobody wants to be owned by a studio like that as a contract player, right? So he's saying, oh, no, not just the money, but the respect that you get for doing this, right? But of course, he's joking. He's being sarcastic here. Before we continue with this breakdown, let me invite you to download and try my app, the B2 Edge. As you can see here, I am able to listen to interviews like this and understand pretty much everything that is being said, and I'm able to analyze the language and really capture what the native speaker is saying. Why? Because over the years, I have developed my level of proficiency in English to an advanced level. So, I went from B2 to C1 and then to C2 levels, which are the more advanced levels of proficiency. So if you want to have a similar result and be able to understand media and interviews like this, you need to develop your proficiency level much more in English. So the B2 Edge app was designed for that. It was designed for intermediate level learners of English who feel stuck at that intermediate plateau and who need to break through that plateau and get to a solid B2 level, which is upper intermediate, then C1 level, which is advanced. All right. The app has a structured curriculum that you follow daily. So if you have 20 to 30 minutes a day to dedicate to your English practice and studies, this app will be a great study companion for you. Remember, this is not a fun language game, all right? This is a study companion app. So if you are ready to set aside 20 to 30 minutes a day to sit down and actually study English and practice, the app will take you there. Will take you to that next level because, you're going to follow a structured curriculum. You can also practice conversation with the AI coach built inside the app. The AI coach is trained by me and all my 20 years of knowledge, teaching experience, and expertise. So I highly recommend you try it out if you are serious about your English learning this year. Look at his delivery of that line and also his facial expression. You know he's joking.
Oh, yeah, not just money, but the respect. That's $150 a week.
Yeah.
When they told
$150 a week. Okay.
me $150 a week, I thought, I said, yeah, I can afford that. I was so happy to be called an actor.
Yeah.
That I would.
That's so little money, right? That's what, $600 a month? All right.
Have done it for less.
So anything.
Yeah, he was at the beginning of his career. That was back in 65, right? So he wanted to act. He wanted to be an actor. So it's that thing, right? When you don't have much preparation in a profession, you don't have much experience, you kind of have to accept everything, pretty much, anything that comes your way until you build a reputation and you gain experience. So, yeah.
Anything then that they're doing, you have to show up and be in, right?
That was the idea.
Yeah. Any memorable appearances coming to mind here?
No.
Yeah.
Any memorable appearances? Any memorable movies you did when you were a contract player in those studios? No. So something memorable is something that you want to remember. Is powerful enough, is good enough that you want to remember. But he's saying that no. I mean, everything I did while I was with those studios, I mean, there's nothing worth sharing here because, they were probably small roles or bad roles, I did the Sylvester Stallone analysis video as well here on the channel, and Stallone shares the same thing. Like, before Rocky, he only got small, lame roles. So I think every actor, usually starts out that way, right?
That was the idea.
Yeah. Any memorable appearances coming to mind here?
No.
Yeah.
No.
And now we're, I guess this is when you decided to leave things for a while and you were a carpenter.
No, I lasted a year and a half out of a 7-year contract and almost immediately made the same mistake at Universal. It lasted a year and a half there. And then I freelanced for a while. That's when I became a carpenter.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you knew this, but Harrison Ford actually worked as a carpenter before his big break with Star Wars. He was a carpenter before. So as he's sharing here, he spent 1 year and a half with the studio. It was supposed to be 7 years, right? The contract, but I guess he terminated the contract before that. Then he made the same mistake as he shared with Universal. It lasted 1 year and a half. Then he freelanced for a little while, and then he became a carpenter because I imagine he had to make a living. He had to pay the bills, right? So he worked as a carpenter for a while.
Now, does that still go on? Can people still go out there and get hired on to show up in whatever shows they're doing?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, that was in '82. Apparently that practice wasn't as popular anymore. So I imagine that nowadays, it hasn't been done anymore, right? I don't know. If you happen to have any experience with the movie industry, you can share your thoughts here in the comment section about that. But I would imagine that this kind of contract player thing doesn't exist anymore nowadays, right?
And you've come millions and millions of miles away from that to the point now where you can go into a dime store in this country and see, maybe a thermal mug, a lunchbox, with your face on it, right? As any one of your characters. Does that, when you're going by and you see an Indiana Jones mug or something, does that, what is that?
Harrison's face is like, okay, what are you asking? What's the question? Because Letterman is saying, okay, so now you are this big star, and you can have your face on any merchandise item, mugs and lunch boxes, as Han Solo maybe or Indiana Jones. So, and Harrison is like, okay, what's the question? His face is really cool.
Or something. Is that? What is that?
Nothing. I don't take it personally.
Yeah, I guess Letterman was trying to ask, like, what does that do to you? Yeah, I mean, when you see your face everywhere and you are this big star, and then Harrison is just saying, nothing. I don't take it personally. Look.
Nothing. I don't take it personally. It does I don't have any relationship to it. I can't figure out what it has to do with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you get, maybe this is not a question.
But I steal them.
Do you get any?
And then I tell them that it's me, and it's a very involved process.
Do you get any dough for that?
Do you get any dough for that? So dough is a informal way to refer to money. Okay, it's an informal, slangy type of word. Dough is money, cash. Okay, so Letterman again is trying to poke about the money thing, right? So he's asking, do you get any dough for that? Do you get any money for those merchandise items? Let's see his response.
And it's a very involved process.
Do you get any dough for that? For appearing your likeness on those mugs?
Let's not talk about money.
Okay, I gotta play that back again, so let's watch that part.
Your likeness on those mugs?
Let's not talk about money.
Look, I mean, yeah, I can understand why some people refer to this interview as awkward, But what I think is cool here is that Harrison is actually setting the tone of the conversation. You know, he's explicitly telling Letterman the things that he's willing to answer and talk about and the things that he's not willing to answer and talk about, right? So he doesn't want to talk about money. So he politely, but in a kind of straightforward way, just says, let's not talk about money. Boom, that's it, And then the little smile that he gives or smirk that he gives at the end, I just try a little bit of humor there. But, he's being serious, right? And we can tell that Letterman is a little bit uncomfortable right now. Yeah, look.
Money.
Let me go back a little bit.
For appearing your likeness on those mugs?
Let's not talk about money.
Yeah, I think this is a great lesson for us in terms of communication, right? Because sometimes a person starts to ask you questions that you really don't want to answer, and you don't know what to do. But you can do this. I mean, you don't have to be disrespectful. You can just simply say, "Look, I'd rather not talk about this," or "Let's not talk about this." And you wait, and you pause, and you let the person feel a little bit of that awkwardness, and the person is gonna, steer the conversation to another topic, right? So far, what I see here in Harrison Ford's communication is that he's not much of a talker, indeed. I mean, he answers everything in a very surgical way, very dry and straightforward way. He uses just a few words, So I think that tells us that you can communicate a lot without saying much. All right. Sometimes we think that fluency equals, running your mouth nonstop. That's not the case. So I can see that Harrison is very deliberate about his pauses, how much he shares, the words. So yeah, I mean, we can definitely learn something from his attitude here.
Okay. Let's talk about something else.
You see, his facial expression. He is being serious. Yeah.
Then. Now, when you first worked with George Lucas, was it in American Graffiti?
Yeah.
Now, as I read this afternoon, he usually doesn't like to keep using the same folks over and over again, but you've worked with him on other occasions.
No, I was real surprised when it happened.
How did that happen?
I don't think he saw me for Star Wars until he'd seen every other living actor between the ages of 7 and 35.
Okay, he's using past perfect here, which is really cool. Listen again.
I don't think he saw me for Star Wars until he'd seen every other living.
I don't think he saw me for Star Wars until he'd seen. He'd seen. All right? This is past perfect. He had seen. Because, the whole story here is in the past, right? So until he'd seen every living actor.
Between the ages of 7 and 35.
Okay, so obviously he wasn't George Lucas's first choice to play Han Solo.
And then he asked me. Mm-hmm. And I tested like everybody else. Agreed to the conditions.
Yeah.
And did it.
Things turned out.
Yeah, it is a bit of an awkward interview because, I get the feeling from Harrison here, the vibe that he doesn't really want to be here. I get the feeling that he'd rather be someplace else, like at home, for example. He doesn't like to talk about this stuff and be in talk shows like that. Even this part here, look.
And I tested like everybody else. Agreed to the conditions.
You see, this kind of breathing that he's taking here is called a sigh. He is sighing. Like when you sigh, you do this, this movement with your breathing. You see, I'm sighing now. So, usually, at least in my experience, when a person answers a question sighing, the person is kind of bored or uninterested and doesn't really want to be there talking to you. It feels that way. That's the vibe I get from him. Like, he really doesn't want to be there talking about this stuff,
Tested like everybody else. Agreed to the conditions.
Yeah.
And
maybe he's thinking in his mind, God, this is so boring. Now it's so boring to be here, so boring to talk about this stuff. Let me just do my work as an actor. Let me just, make my movies. You guys can watch it, appreciate it, but leave me alone. That's the kind of vibe I get from him here, He seems to be a very reserved person, I would say. Yeah, based on this interview.
did it.
Things turned out pretty well.
Great.
And as far as Raiders of the Lost Ark,
that's the first Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
you were not his You were now. This does this make you feel odd that you were not his first choice for that film either?
You know, Letterman is using the word odd here. Does this make you feel odd? If you feel odd, you feel strange. You feel kind of upset, you know? So he's asking Harrison, does it make you feel odd that you are not the first choice for Indiana Jones either?
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have occurred to me that I didn't.
His response is so surgical, you know?
Does this make you feel odd that you were not his first choice for that film either?
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have occurred to me that I didn't even know about the project. I didn't know Spielberg. And it didn't occur to me that I would have a chance of doing it for the same reason you just...
Yeah.
He's using a nice phrase here. Yeah, he said, it didn't occur to me. If you say that, oh, it didn't occur to me, you are saying, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. I never imagined this. I never conceived this idea. It didn't occur to me. But what is interesting, he uses this word twice here, but in different tenses and structures. Listen to the first time.
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have occurred to me that
He's saying, it wouldn't have occurred to me. This is what he's saying right now. It wouldn't have occurred to me. Almost like a third conditional type of sentence. But listen how he says that. Listen to how he says that.
Does this make you feel odd that you were not his first choice for that film either?
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have occurred to me that
You see, it's so reduced. I think he's going something like, it wouldn't have occurred. It wouldn't have occurred to me. It wouldn't have occurred to me. Like that, right? It's so reduced. But that's what he's saying. It wouldn't have occurred to me. 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 All right?
Film either?
No.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't have occurred to me that I didn't even know about the project. I didn't know Spielberg. And it didn't occur to me that I would have a chance of doing it for the same reason you just...
And now he's using it again in the simple past. It didn't occur to me. All right?
Yeah.
mentioned.
Do you know anybody who was in the running before you got it?
For Raiders?
You know anybody who was in the running before you got the part? Like, you know, anybody else who was trying to get the part of Indiana Jones before you?
Mm-hmm.
Just Tom Selleck.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Selleck. I mean, I think Tom Selleck is that Magnum PI guy, right? I think so. Yeah, the main actor in Magnum PI, I think. Yeah, the one with the big mustache. I had no idea that he had tried to get the part for Indiana Jones. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine this guy as Indiana Jones? Interesting.
That's interesting. It's hard to imagine him in that film now, although would it have been a different, I guess it would have been a different film, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely tell that Letterman is a little bit awkward here, feeling a little bit awkward because, you know, I understand that, you know. Have you ever had this experience of trying to talk to someone and the person just keeps giving you one-word answers or short answers like yes, no, I liked it, I didn't like it, you know? I understand that it can be a little bit frustrating because, you know, you are trying to get the person to open up and share stuff with you, but the person is obviously not in the mood for talking, but it's his job here. Yeah, he has to keep him talking somehow, right? So I empathize a little bit with Letterman as well here, you know?
I know we're going to pause.
Yes.
Now I was also reading today somebody a publication printed that you were doing your own stunt work on Raiders of the Lost Ark, and which seemed to be
yeah, stunt work, right? In movies, we have the stunt work, especially in action films. You know, those dangerous scenes where actors have to fight or jump off buildings and train wagons. These are called stunts. Okay, so apparently Letterman read somewhere that for Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford was doing his own stunts, but he's saying no, that's not true.
not true.
No, I wouldn't do a stunt. There are guys much more prepared to do that than me.
But
Yeah, because, you know, they usually have the stunt doubles. Yeah, those are the people who are professionals at those kinds of scenes, and they dress in a way as to resemble the original actor. So they do those dangerous scenes in order for the original actor to be safe, right? So Harrison is saying, I mean, I wouldn't do that because, you know, there are people who are better than me than this. Why would I put my life in danger like this?
And to suffer the consequences.
yeah, but it looked pretty dangerous. being pushed around by that truck straddling the front wheel of a...
Difference between doing stunts and doing physical action, physical acting.
So you were doing some physical acting. And it's...
Okay, so apparently there's a difference between physical acting and stunt work, right? I would imagine that stunt is something more dangerous, yeah? And physical acting is just, you're using your body in a more active scene, but still in a safe, controlled environment.
You prepared yourself the best way you could. and you mentioned that even if it included chemically preparing.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, maybe it was the guy, the Popeil man. No,
I don't.
Stuff here, right?
All right.
Yeah, he's kind of making the studio look bad a little bit, because Letterman is like, okay, what's happening to my notes here? Is my research wrong,
Oh, man.
No, I don't.
Stuff here, right?
All right.
When he invented the Vegematic,
I was just being silly.
Oh, I see.
I was just being silly. I was just joking. Okay, but the way he delivers that and his facial expression, I don't really know if he's being serious or not. While I appreciate his sense of humor, this sarcastic, dry sense of humor, I must admit that for me personally, I find it hard to read people like that sometimes because I never really know if the person is joking or being serious. So I always have this doubt in my mind. Yeah,
Just being silly. I don't remember where I said that, under what circumstances. Mm-hmm. Probably someplace like this.
Mm-hmm.
You see the way that he delivers that line, probably someplace like this. And his face, his sarcastic face. So I don't know. I got the feeling that, watching this interview, Harrison really doesn't want to be there. He really doesn't want to be there giving this interview, talking about his work, I think he'd rather be someplace else. I mean, that's the vibe I get from him.
Where one is encouraged to say anything.
Yeah. You seem...
But, you see, he just has something interesting here, yeah? Look.
Where one is encouraged to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably a place like this where one is encouraged to say anything. One thing that I appreciate about his attitude here is that he doesn't play the game. Yeah, he doesn't play the game of the talk show. You know what I'm talking about, especially nowadays with these latest talk show, late night shows. I mean, I think a lot of that comes across, at least to me, as a little bit fake. The guest is always laughing at the host's silly jokes and silly comments. The host, instead of really asking thoughtful questions, is just, making stupid jokes, like I said, or, choosing to talk about things that are really irrelevant to, the work of the actor, so it is kind of a show, let's say. So one thing that I appreciate about Harrisson's attitude here is that, he doesn't play the game. He's going to go there. Maybe he has to be there, to promote the movie, whatever, but he's just going to have a conversation like a regular person, just ask me questions. And, if there's something that you ask me that I don't want to talk about, I'm going to clearly say that I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about something else. And that's it. But he's not going to play the game. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. You seem now, I know you probably not most comfortable going around talking about a project. You'd probably rather be home, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Well,
you see, he just answered my question and Letterman's question. Like, you don't feel very comfortable going around like this, and talking in public about your work, right? You'd rather be home. And he says, yes. Really cool.
Probably rather be home, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Well, I totally relate to that. Personally, if I have the chance to stay home instead of, going out and seeing people and talking to people, I'd rather stay home. So I relate to that. He seems to be a very reserved type of person. Yeah. And you got to respect that. The man has already given us so many great movies, I was surfing online the other day and I saw this, I think this reel on Instagram with Harrison Ford nowadays, already, much older. Yeah. He was walking, I think in New York City. Yeah. On the street. And then there was this guy trying to get a picture of him, but the guy didn't ask for permission. He just started walking alongside Harrison with his phone like this and trying to get a picture with him. And then, Harrison was a little bit like, upset about that. Like, no, I don't want to take a picture. I don't want to do that, So he seems to be a reserved type of person, and you got to respect that, you know? Appreciate the work he's already put out, you know, the movies he's made, and that's it. I mean, I guess the people sometimes they fail to respect the boundaries, you know, and understand that actors are people, you know, and if you don't want to take a picture, if you don't want to talk to someone, I mean, you have that right, you know? I mean, that's my take on it anyway. Some people would argue against that. They would say, oh, but that's the price you pay for fame, right? I mean, that's a valid point as well. I understand that point. But I mean, from where I'm standing, I take like the actor side more, you know, like he has the right to, you know, not be messed with, you know, if he doesn't want to, right? So anyway, let's continue here.
Not right now.
Well, no, I know that feeling. But did this sort of thing appearing in front of people makes you uncomfortable?
No, not here, not with you.
Not here on your show, not with you. I'm comfortable here. But the way he delivers that is kind of, okay, I don't know. Are you joking? Are you serious? You know? Yeah, I can tell that Letterman is a little bit uncomfortable here, you know?
So you would say then that you are having the time of your life now, huh?
More or less.
Yeah.
Are you having the time of your life now? Are you having a lot of fun here on my show? More or less.
And now, do you still do a lot of carpentry work?
Carpentry, yeah. Carpentry is the craft. Carpenter is the person who works with the craft of carpentry. Okay?
No, I don't have much time. When I get home, I like very much to do it, but I just don't have a big enough block of time to do it.
Mm-hmm. And by carpenter, you could build a house if you wanted to?
Yes, I could.
Have you built a house?
No, I confine myself to smaller projects. The same.
Nice phrase, right? I confine myself to smaller projects. Like, you know, I do carpentry when I can. I don't have much time, but nothing big, yeah? I confine myself. I limit myself, yeah, to smaller projects.
Things are involved.
Harrison Ford is here with us, of course. We're going to take a look at some footage from his new motion picture, The Blade Runner. Also in this half hour, a tour of Times Square, and the president of Ronco Teleproducts, Ronald Popeil. You guys did a couple of films together, I know, back in the 60s.
Ron and I, yeah.
What is The Blade Runner? What does that title mean?
It's the
Okay, now we're going to talk about The Blade Runner. Let's see.
name of the police unit to which the character I play is assigned.
Mm-hmm. And is this a movie that takes place in the future or the present?
40 years.
Takes place, right? Happens. Does this movie happen in the future? Take place in the future?
A movie that takes place in the future or the present?
40 years in the future, on Earth, in recognizable surroundings. Not so much science fiction as a little bit of futurism blended with a detective story.
Okay, it's nice how he describes Blade Runner, right? Not so much science fiction, but futurism with a bit of what?
As a little bit of futurism blended with a detective story.
Futurism blended or mixed with a detective story. Nice.
How do things seem to be 40 years from now?
It's no musical comedy, David.
It's no musical comedy. That's really a great line. So Blade Runner is from 1982, the first one, right? And the story takes place 40 years into the future. But it's crazy, right? I mean, if you think from 1982, 40 years into the future, that'll be what, 2022? I mean, we are past that already, right? If my calculations are correct. And apparently in the movie, right, the future doesn't look so bright. Yeah, maybe I would argue that even in real life nowadays, I mean, I guess that prediction holds true. You know, it's no musical comedy. Yeah, what happened 40 years later?
How do things seem to be 40 years from now?
It's no musical comedy, David.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the reasons why I've been choosing to do these old interviews, because, you know, for me, it's like, you know, a traveling in time, you know, it's like a time capsule, you know. I feel that interviews back then were more authentic, more genuine. It was just two people having a conversation, you know, and I miss that, to be honest. You know, I think nowadays it's all about stage and show and that kind of stuff, and I'm not really into it. I mean, I'm an old soul, yeah? I mean, I have an old spirit, so...
It's But it's a vision of the future that's an idea for a movie. It's a complex of ideas that are useful in making a movie. It starts from a point.
He doesn't move his mouth much. Have you noticed that? He doesn't move his mouth much to speak. He mumbles a little bit sometimes, maybe because of that uninterested archetype that he has, right?
Complex of ideas that are useful in making a movie. It starts from a point of departure in science as we know it now and projects a few possible changes.
And as you said, in recognizable surroundings.
Yeah.
And this is based on a very popular
It's
science
based
fiction novel, right?
Yeah, on an incident from Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
All right. And we have, it's an amusing title, but it's not necessarily an amusing film, or is it? Maybe yes.
Yeah, Letterman is saying it's an amusing title, but not an amazing film. Yeah, I mean, the original idea, right? Something amusing, something entertaining. Yeah, oh, this is amusing, this is fun, this is entertaining, all right?
But it's not necessarily an amusing film, or is it? Maybe yes.
Well, no, it's not calculated to be amusing.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's engaging and stimulating and
Right.
and full of wonderful ideas.
Right. And as you said, it's based only on an episode from that book.
Right.
And the motion picture opens this week, or
The end of this week.
the end of this
You see the motion picture opens this week? The motion picture being the movie, right?
based only on an episode from that book.
Right.
And the motion picture opens this week, or
The end of this week.
the end of this week. And then after that, we can look forward to you in the third Star Wars film, correct?
Yes, that comes out May of next year.
And so,
Well, it's wild. I mean, at that time, the third Star Wars, the episode 6, I think Returning of the Jedi, right? Return of the Jedi hadn't really come out yet. Yeah, because, he came out in 83, if I remember correctly. It's wild.
so you're all finished with that project now? Or?
That the story concludes itself in this third chapter.
Terrific. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you
you.
very much for your time.
He's kind of even, standing up already, like, oh, let me get out of here, Really cool, guys. So, to answer the question, what makes this English great? I like how assertive he is in this interview. Yes, he might come across a little bit as uninterested, but I like how assertive he is in the way he answers the questions. He doesn't raise his voice. He speaks in a very low tone, but with authority. He doesn't use many words, which I think is a quality because you know this, right? I mean, the more words you use, the stupider you tend to look, So I think being more, let's say, surgical with the words you choose to use is definitely a lesson that we can learn here from him, in terms of communication. And I like how he sets boundaries in the conversation, especially that part where Letterman was trying to talk about how much money he's making now as a big star. And he said, look, I don't want to talk about that. Let's not talk about money. And then that's it. So, this is really important for us to remember. Yeah, sometimes somebody might be prying or asking us questions that we really don't want to answer or feel comfortable answering. We can simply just end the conversation there and say something like that. Look, I don't want to talk about that. I'd rather not discuss this. Let's talk about something else. So I like that. So I would say that he communicates with very few words, sometimes too few words, I would say, I would use more, but I get why, yeah. But I think the greatest quality that I get from him here is the assertiveness, and how he speaks with authority and also imposing limits in the conversation, setting the boundaries of the conversation, all right? By the way, if you like this kind of analysis and you're wondering, man, how can I also be able to analyze language like that? Look, I'm able to analyze language like that because over the years, I have developed my proficiency level in English to an advanced level. If you want to do the same, if you want to be able to understand media like that, like really get the language that the native speaker is using, the nuances, you got to develop your language proficiency more. You got to go from an intermediate level maybe to an upper intermediate level of English, B2, and then C1, and C2 if you want. But it's important that you raise your level of proficiency in English. I have an app to help you achieve that. It's called the B2 Edge app. This is a great app, great study companion to help you level up your English so you are able to appreciate interviews and other types of media like that in a deep way. You know, you understand the sarcasm, the nuances, the nuances, the language the actors are using here, the people are using. All right. So if you want to learn more about the app, the link is in the description. Check it out, read about it, and if it makes sense to you, download it and try it out for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this analysis today. If you still have any questions about this analysis, maybe something that I didn't explain or didn't define, you can ask me here in the comment section below. If you have a suggestion of interview for me to react to, comment on, and teach English with, you can also leave your suggestion here. But, you know, I've been prioritizing actors and musicians basically from that time period, you know, like 70s to the 80s decade. So if you're going to recommend something, please recommend something old like that, because, you know, I'm into this, you know, old interviews, you know, these old interviews, and that's pretty much it. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me today. Happy Saturday, right? I'm Thiago, and speak in the next video. Bye-bye.